y'all, so today I wanted to talk to you about what is probably my favorite read of 2020, and that is The Meaning of Mariah Carey by Mariah Carey. It's her memoir. I knew I was gonna love this book because I am somebody who is a big Mariah Carey fan. I have always been a big Mariah Carey fan. My mom is a big Mariah Carey fan, so I pretty much have grown up on her music, and I just love, of course, her whistle register and everything about like her work ethic and stuff like that. And I love the fact that her music, like every time I hear a song of hers, it takes me back to a specific time. Like her song just has a lot of emotion in it, no pun intended. I just really wanted to read her story, and I was actually very surprised. Like I knew that she had a rough upbringing. I guess I have heard stories over the years, but in her own words, it's way worse than even I could have imagined. And it put Mariah Carey into perspective. Like if you're not a Mariah Carey fan, then you probably just look at her and like her opulence and her like over the topness and think like, oh, she's just a diva. I even saw somebody say, well, she's probably lived a very privileged life, and I was like, pump your brakes, because I just read this memoir and she has lived far from a privileged life or childhood. I was actually very surprised about what I read. Just to give you a little bit of perspective, she said her sister pretty much almost sold her into prostitution. Her family would like fist fight. What came to mind to me a lot of the time when she was telling the story about her childhood is neglect, and she felt unprotected. Like that is like a big theme of her childhood, that she felt unprotected, like unprotected as a child, mentally, physically, emotionally. And because she is biracial, her dad is black and her mom is white, she pretty much was cut off from a lot of the black side of her family. She didn't really feel like the black side of like her identity, and even down to her hair was very nurtured. And she even describes the first time that someone actually combed through her curls and took the time out to comb through her curls. And she said that she felt like anew. Like she describes that in like a whole chapter. But that's just a little bit, like that's just a tip of the iceberg of the things that she's been through. Like she's had a shotgun pointed at her by her mom's boyfriend, and she's almost drowned, and like she was living off $1 a day. Like it was real. So like let's just dive into why I love this book so much. I have really been into memoirs about Black women and their journey to where they are today, and I love to peek inside people's creative process. So like I love the fact that we go from, you know, Mariah's like her wayward childhood to now and the journey of how she got there, but she also talks about her songwriting process, which is like a special treat in my opinion. So I love to hear about people's creative processes and their journeys, and I love that she talks about that in this book. Another thing that I liked about this book is that I kind of suspected, but I didn't realize she had such a strong faith in God. Like there's actual scriptures in here, and if you listen to some of her songs, they definitely do have a gospel influence, like a choir, or she actually references Bible scriptures in a lot of her songs. And she said that that is a big part of her strength and how she got through so much of her childhood. So she does credit God a lot in this book. He's the first in her acknowledgments at the end of the book. So that was just something that I thought was a very like interesting and stuff, because as a lot of you probably know that I'm Christian and stuff like that. So it was just fun to see that on the page of someone that I really admire. If you're into Enneagrams, like I feel like me and Mariah Carey have the same Enneagram, which is 4W3. And the reason I say that is because Mariah, like the 4, like she's very emotional, imaginative, creative, and the 3 is like goal oriented. Like she says this in the book, that her identity is in her singing, songwriting, and music. And I feel like that is just the 4W3. Like we love goals and we love to create. And her imagination, she says, as a child was so big, and that's actually a place that she would go when her abusive household was just getting to be overwhelming to her. She would kind of go into her own mind, into her music, make melodies and stuff like that. She also had an abusive, I would say emotionally abusive marriage, her first marriage, and she said even in that marriage she had to fight for her blackness, like in her music and her look. My mom would always tell me they were always trying to make Mariah Carey seem like something that she was not, until like the Butterfly album. She actually said that in the novel. She wanted to have like a more R&B sound, and that's the stuff that she likes to listen to, and she had to fight for that. And you know, Mariah Carey is like a remix queen, and that is like the inspiration behind a lot of her remixes. If you look at like her original songs to her remixes and compare them, you will see that the remix is kind of the more soulful R&B a lot of the time, because she said that was like her creative outlet to the music that she was making. And I know it's funny that we call Mariah Carey like the Queen of Christmas and stuff like that, but she actually said that she did not have a lot of great Christmases growing up. Like, that's something that she didn't have until she was an adult and, you know, making her own money and having her own family. It's interesting, it's ironic, it's obviously sad, but I just thought that was just something to point out. The way that she talks about race is very interesting to me, but she, like I said, was cut off from a lot of her black side of her family, but she felt connected to them when she was around them. She lived in a predominantly white neighborhood. She's gotten like cornered by groups of white girls that were calling her the N-word, like fearing for her life and stuff like that. And she also observed how people, because of how she looks, people considered her to be white, or they just kind of could ignore the fact that she was black, and she had to reiterate and correct them with that. She also narrates her own audiobook. I went back and forth, but I love to actually read the book because the prose in this book is really good. It's no secret that Mariah Carey can write, so I actually wanted to read it and be able to bookmark things and passages that I liked. But if you're into audiobooks, she actually sings passages and narrates her own audiobook. And she talks about the inspiration behind a lot of her stories. So it's actually really fun to see the inspiration behind a lot of her music, like the experiences, the relationships, the thoughts, and then she actually puts the exact lyrics that were inspired by exact moments. So that was really fun. There were even a couple times where I actually stopped reading the book so I could go watch videos and listen to the music and kind of hear what she was saying. And that was just really fun. There is a part, and I'm not going to spoil this for you, but she was recording the Always Be My Baby remix with her bestie, Debrat, Escape, and Jermaine Dupri. And there was a whole thing with police officers, french fries, her husband at the time. So it was a wild ride. So I had to pause the book at that moment and go play that video and see if I could see any of what she was talking about, and then go back to the book, because it's just like an interactive experience. And she also talks about, you know, her, I guess you could call it, breakdown and everything that happened with Glitter, and seeing it from that end and hearing it in her own words again puts it in a different perspective. And again, the word unprotected comes to mind when she talks about that whole saga in her story. Another thing I loved about this book was her perseverance. Like, now when I see her like opulence and stuff, it kind of makes me just happy for her because of everything that she's been through. She says this a lot of times in the book, that she's eternally 12, so she has like a childlike type of spirit. And now that she has said that, it comes across like she has this big imaginative personality, and it comes out in opulence in everything that she does. And I think that's probably because of her childhood being the way it was. Like, she has that childlike spirit, and she said that she's never wanted to forget how she felt when she was a child. It's also very nostalgic. Like I said, I've grown up on Mariah Carey, so certain songs just take me to certain places, whether it's elementary school, middle school, high school. So when she talks about some of these things, it's just like, oh, that's crazy, because I was this age when this song came out. And I just felt inspired because she has gone through so much, and she even says, like, you know, if you have a dream in your heart, don't let anyone stop you, because look at what she's been through. And it was just inspiring to see her really have that tunnel vision, like, I'm going to be a singer-songwriter one day and nothing is going to stop me, because she had a lot of obstacles to get through to get to where she is today. It was just my favorite book of the year. Like, it was just so good. I loved the nostalgia. I love reading about her story. I'm a fan of Mariah Carey already, and even if you're like kind of like a lukewarm fan or something like that, or you don't really feel like you care for Mariah Carey for whatever reason, it's broken down into 4 parts. I encourage you to read the first part and see if you're not hooked, because I just feel like it is way more than people probably are expecting it to be. I'm about to watch all of her videos over, all of her interviews, like from different times that she was talking about, things that she referenced in this book. I'm about to go find, because I have to know it all now. I just love like behind the scenes looks at people I admire. So I definitely recommend this book. It is amazing. It is amazing. I hope you guys love it. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you're thinking about reading it. Read this book. Try the first part. Try the first chapter. Try the first page. And I guarantee that if you even are a lukewarm fan, or even if you're not a fan, you will be a fan, or at least have a new respect for Mariah after reading this. So yes, thank you for tuning into my channel, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye.